Syria represents perhaps the most dramatic shift in regional dynamics, where the United States lifted partial sanctions in May 2025, creating the first real opportunity for reconstruction since the conflict began over a decade ago. The sanctions relief came through targeted modifications to Treasury Department restrictions, allowing specific categories of humanitarian aid and infrastructure investment to proceed. The Office of Foreign Assets Control issued new guidelines permitting financial institutions to process transactions related to basic infrastructure projects, medical equipment imports, and educational materials. European Union member states followed with selective lifting of their own restrictions, though maintaining broader economic sanctions pending further political developments. The Arab League formally called for comprehensive reconstruction support, with member states pledging coordination on cross-border humanitarian assistance and preliminary infrastructure assessment. The United Nations Development Program released updated analysis suggesting that while Syria's reconstruction needs range between $400 billion and $1 trillion, according to various estimates from the Atlantic Council and UN agencies, the country has entered what officials describe as the preliminary stages of organized rebuilding efforts. Damascus began receiving international assessment teams for the first time since 2011, with engineers and urban planners documenting the extent of infrastructure damage across major cities. The World Health Organization conducted comprehensive evaluations of hospital facilities, while UNESCO teams surveyed cultural heritage sites to determine restoration priorities. These assessments provide the foundation for future reconstruction planning, though large-scale implementation remains dependent on continued political stability and expanded international cooperation. Early reconstruction efforts focus on basic infrastructure restoration rather than ambitious modernization projects. Water treatment facilities in Aleppo received emergency repairs using international humanitarian funding, restoring clean water access to neighborhoods that had relied on unsafe sources for years. Electrical grid repairs in Damascus suburbs restored power to residential areas, though capacity remains well below pre-war levels. Road clearing operations removed debris from major transportation routes, allowing improved movement of goods and people between cities. Syrian refugees began returning from neighboring countries as security conditions stabilized and basic services resumed operation. Turkish authorities reported increased applications for voluntary repatriation programs, while Jordanian officials noted growing interest among camp residents in returning to Syrian communities where infrastructure repairs had begun. Lebanese border crossings documented rising numbers of Syrians crossing back into their homeland, though most returns remain temporary as families assess conditions before making permanent decisions. International humanitarian organizations expanded operations beyond emergency aid toward development assistance programs. Medical equipment donations from European countries helped reopen hospital wings that had been closed since the conflict's peak years. Educational, materials and teacher training programs supported school reopenings in areas where security permitted regular attendance. Agricultural assistance programs provided seeds and basic equipment to farmers attempting to restore crop production in previously contested regions. The diplomatic landscape shifted as regional powers reassessed their positions towards Syrian reconstruction. The United States demanded Syria's participation in the Abraham Accords as a condition for expanded sanctions relief, according to State Department briefings, though specific details of these requirements remain unclear. Gulf states expressed cautious interest in reconstruction investments pending resolution of outstanding political issues. European governments maintained their position linking comprehensive economic normalization to political reforms and accountability measures. Construction companies from neighboring countries began preliminary assessments of reconstruction opportunities, though major projects await clearer regulatory frameworks and financing mechanisms. Lebanese firms evaluated cross-border infrastructure projects that could benefit both countries' economic recovery. Turkish construction companies studied potential involvement in northern Syria rebuilding efforts, while Jordanian businesses explored opportunities in southern regions where they maintained historical commercial relationships. Energy sector recovery became a priority as international partners evaluated Syria's petroleum infrastructure. Russian companies maintained existing operations while assessing expansion possibilities under the modified sanctions regime. Regional energy cooperation discussions included potential pipeline projects that could integrate Syrian production with broader Middle Eastern energy networks, though such initiatives require extensive international coordination and investment. The economic transformation occurring across these regional powers reflects broader shifts in how nations adapt to changing international circumstances. Syria's cautious emergence from isolation parallels developments elsewhere in the region, where intelligence operations and security concerns create new challenges that require unprecedented levels of international cooperation and information sharing.